They arrived with nothing but dreams and a few dollars in their pockets. Some came as students, others as nurses, and still others as engineers seeking opportunity in America's most innovative city. What they built would change not just their families, but the entire world. San Francisco, the Golden Gate, the birthplace of Silicon Valley. For over a century, this city has been a beacon for Filipino immigrants, and within its fog-kissed streets lies a story of wealth, innovation, and empire building that rivals any dynasty in American history. But who are the Filipinos who struck gold in the city by the bay? Who are the families whose fortunes were forged in San Francisco's unique crucible of technology, healthcare, and entrepreneurship? And which family stands at the very top? The richest Filipino family in San Francisco? The answers might surprise you, because the Filipino presence in San Francisco isn't just about corner stores and hospital wards. It's about the man who invented the technology inside every computer you've ever used, and who walked barefoot to school as a child in the Philippines. It's about the fast food empire that chose Daly City for its very first American store, betting everything on the Bay Area's Filipino community. It's about the tech billionaire born right here in Berkeley, whose app changed how an entire generation communicates. And it's about the cultural district fighting to preserve Filipino heritage in a rapidly changing city, while building the next generation of entrepreneurs. From Soma Pilipinas to Silicon Valley, from nursing dynasties that have become the backbone of Bay Area healthcare to venture capitalists funding the future of technology, the Filipino footprint on San Francisco is deeper and wealthier than most people ever realize. Tonight, we're counting down the 10 richest Filipino families and individuals with verified connections to San Francisco. We'll explore the colossal empires they've built, uncover the origin stories that shaped them, and reveal how their fortunes continue to impact millions of lives. But you'll want to stick around for number 1, because the family that claims the top spot isn't just rich. They helped invent the digital age itself. Their story begins in a remote farming village with no electricity and ends with a $5 billion fortune and a legacy that touches every person who has ever used a computer. This is the story of the richest Filipino family in San Francisco. Let's begin. Kicking off our list at number 10 is a family whose fortune didn't begin in San Francisco, but whose vision was shaped by what they saw here. The Sy siblings, heirs to the largest retail empire in the Philippines, collectively hold a staggering $17.2 billion, according to Forbes 2025. But the story of how their father built that empire begins with a young man who traveled to America in 1955, walked through the shopping malls of New York and Boston, and returned home with a dream that would reshape an entire nation's relationship with commerce. Henry Sy Sr. was born in Fujian, China, and arrived in the Philippines as a child with just 10 centavos in his pocket. His father opened a small sari-sari store in Quiapo, Manila, and young Henry learned the retail trade from the ground up. When World War II destroyed everything his family had built, his father returned to China. Henry stayed. He had seen something in the Philippines, opportunity, potential, a future worth fighting for. In 1955, at the age of 30, Henry Sy made a fateful journey to the United States. He visited Macy's, Sears, and J.C. Penney. He walked through shopping centers that featured wide walkways, air conditioning, movie theaters, and food courts all under one roof. He recognized immediately that America was the mecca of shopping centers, and he understood that what worked here could transform retail in the Philippines. That trip changed everything. 3 years later, he opened Shoe Mart, the first air-conditioned shoe store in the Quiriedo district of Manila. By 1972, it had evolved into SM Department Store, And in 1985, SM City North EDSA opened its doors, a sprawling complex patterned directly after the American suburban shopping centers Henry had studied 3 decades earlier. Today, the Tsai family controls 84 malls in the Philippines and 7 more in China. SM Investments Corporation commands a market capitalization exceeding 1 trillion pesos. BDO Unibank, which the family also controls, stands as the largest bank in the Philippines. The 6 Tsai siblings, Teresita, Elizabeth, Henry Jr., Hans, Herbert, and Harley, each hold individual fortunes ranging from $1.7 to $2.3 billion. Their father passed away in January 2019, but the American-inspired vision he brought back from his travels continues to shape how millions of Filipinos shop, eat, and gather. The Tsai family ranks 10th on our list not because their fortune is small, it is anything but because their connection to San Francisco, while influential, was part of a broader American journey rather than a direct Bay Area presence. Still, every time a Filipino family strolls through an SM supermall, they are walking through a dream that was born in the shopping centers of America. But the Tsai family wasn't the only Filipino empire that saw opportunity in the San Francisco Bay Area. Our next entry didn't just visit. They planted their flag right in the heart of the region's Filipino community. Coming in at number 9 is the family behind the bright red bee that conquered America, starting from a single store in Daly City. Tony Tan Cactiong, founder and chairman of Jollibee Foods Corporation, holds a personal fortune of approximately $1.3 billion. But the true measure of his empire isn't found in net worth calculations. It's found in the massive crowds that lined up when Jollibee opened its very first American location in 1998. Tony Tan Cactiong was born on January 5, 1953, in Davao del Sur, to Chinese immigrant parents from Fujian. His father worked as a cook in a Buddhist monastery before opening his own restaurant, and young Tony helped out as a dishwasher. He studied chemical engineering at the University of Santo Tomas, but his destiny lay not in laboratories, but in kitchens. In 1975, he opened a Magnolia ice cream franchise in Cubao, Quezon City. Within 3 years, he had converted it into something entirely new, a fast food restaurant serving sweet Filipino-style spaghetti and crispy fried chicken he called Chicken Joy. When McDonald's entered the Philippine market in 1981, everyone told Tony to sell. The American giant would crush him. Instead, he doubled down on Filipino flavors, betting that local tastes would beat imported concepts. He was right. Jollibee became the dominant fast food chain in the Philippines, outselling McDonald's in its own market. But Tony Tan Cactiong had bigger ambitions. In 1998, Jollibee opened its first American location at 6955 Mission Street in Daly City, California. The choice was strategic. Daly City is home to one of the largest Filipino populations in the continental United States. The gamble paid off spectacularly. Filipino-Americans drove for hours just to taste Chicken Joy and Jolly Spaghetti on American soil. Today, Jollibee operates over 100 stores across North America, with a new San Francisco location planned for 934 Market Street. The company has acquired Greenwich Pizza, Chowking, Red Ribbon, Smashburger, and Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, building a global portfolio with a market capitalization of $4.68 billion. Tony's wife Grace leads the Jollibee Foundation, while his brother Ernesto serves as president and CEO of the corporation. The empire that began with an ice cream parlor now spans 17 countries. And it all expanded to America through the Filipino community of the San Francisco Bay Area. From fried chicken empires to real estate fortunes, our next entry looked to American models to build the largest property empire in Philippine history. At number 8, we have Manuel Villar, the richest person in the Philippines according to Forbes 2025, with a net worth of $17.2 billion. His connection to San Francisco is less direct than our previous entries, but his story embodies the same principle, studying American success and applying it to Philippine ambitions. Villar was born on December 13, 1949, and famously sold fish to pay for his schooling. He studied business administration at the University of the Philippines and founded Camella Homes, applying American suburban development concepts to create affordable housing for Filipino families. Vista Land and Lifescapes became the largest home builder in the Philippines. Golden MV Holdings reported nearly 1 trillion pesos in profit in 2024, a record-breaking figure in Philippine corporate history. Villar built a political dynasty alongside his business empire, serving as senator and House Speaker. His wife Cynthia currently serves in the Senate. The Villar fortune proves that American models of suburban development could transform Philippine real estate. But wealth isn't always measured in real estate or restaurants. Our next entries prove that Filipino-American success in San Francisco spans far beyond malls and restaurants. These are stories of barrier-breaking achievement, of women who shattered glass ceilings and built fortunes through intellect, determination, and an unwavering belief that their ideas could change the world. At number 7, we have Loida Nicholas Lewis, a woman whose list of firsts would be remarkable for anyone, but becomes extraordinary when you consider where she began. Born in 1942 in Sorsogon City, a small coastal municipality in the Philippines, Loida grew up in a family that valued education and public service. Her sister Imelda would later serve as lead convener of the National Anti-Poverty Commission in the Philippines. But Loida had her sights set on America, and specifically on the legal profession that would become her gateway to power. In 1974, Loida Nicholas achieved something no Asian woman had ever done before. She passed the New York State bar examination without having attended an American law school. She had earned her law degree in the Philippines, yet she mastered American jurisprudence well enough to pass one of the most demanding bar exams in the country. That achievement alone would have secured her place in history. But Loida was just getting started. Her American legal career began in 1969 with the Law Student Civil Rights Research Council, followed by work at Manhattan Legal Services from 1970 to 1973. From 1979 to 1987, she served as an attorney for the U.S. Immigration and Naturalization Service, where she became a fierce advocate for immigrant rights, particularly within the Filipino community. She co-authored a book titled How to Get a Green Card, which became a definitive guide for immigrants navigating the complex American system. She also co-founded the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, cementing her reputation as a champion of civil rights. But her most dramatic transformation came through marriage. Loida married Reginald F. Lewis, who would become the first Black American billionaire through his leveraged buyout of Beatrice International Foods. When Reginald died unexpectedly in 1993, Loida faced a choice that would define her legacy. She could step back and let others manage the empire her husband had built. Or she could step forward. She stepped forward. From 1994 to 2000, Loida Nicholas Lewis served as chair and CEO of TLC Beatrice International, a $2 billion multinational food company with operations across Europe. She became one of the first Asian women to lead a major American corporation, managing a sprawling enterprise while honoring her husband's vision. Her personal net worth is estimated at approximately $600 million, derived from her leadership of TLC Beatrice and her extensive investment portfolio. Today, Loida chairs the Reginald F. Lewis Foundation, and continues her advocacy work through the National Federation of Filipino-American Associations, which she co-founded. Her connections to California's legal and business communities run deep, and her influence on Filipino-American professional networks stretches across the Bay Area and beyond. She proved that a woman from Sorsogon could master American law, lead a billion-dollar company, and become a voice for millions of immigrants seeking their own American dream. From law to technology, our next entry founded one of the most important companies for working families in America, born from a problem she couldn't solve for herself. Breaking into number 6 is Sheila Lirio Marcelo, the Filipino-American entrepreneur who turned personal frustration into a $500 million exit. Her story begins not in a boardroom, but in the chaos of trying to be everything at once. A Harvard MBA student, a mother of 2 young children, and a daughter caring for a father who had just suffered a heart attack. When she couldn't find reliable care for her family, she didn't just complain. She built a solution. Sheila was born in 1970 in the Philippines to parents who were both entrepreneurs, running businesses in agriculture and transportation. The family moved to Houston when she was young, and Sheila attended Brent International School in Baguio at age 11 before pursuing higher education in America. She graduated magna cum laude from Mount Holyoke College with a degree in economics, then earned both a JD and an MBA from Harvard University. She had her first child during her undergraduate years and her second son after completing her MBA, a testament to her ability to balance ambition with family obligations. Before founding her own company, Sheila worked as a consultant at Monitor Company, served as a teaching fellow at Harvard Business School, and held positions at UpRamosandTheLadders.com. Her time as an entrepreneur in residence at Matrix Partners proved pivotal. When she pitched her idea for an online marketplace connecting families with caregivers, Matrix Partners provided $3.5 million in Series A funding. Reid Hoffman, the legendary Silicon Valley investor, also participated in early rounds. Care.com launched in 2006 and rapidly became the world's largest online platform for finding childcare, senior care, pet care, and housekeeping services. Between 2006 and 2012, the company raised $111 million from investors, including New Enterprise Associates and institutional venture partners. The company went public and grew into a household name for millions of American families struggling with the same challenges Sheila had faced. In 2019, IAC acquired Care.com for $500 million, a remarkable exit for a company born from one woman's determination to solve her own problem. Sheila's verified stock holdings value her personal stake at over $23 million, though her total wealth from the acquisition and subsequent ventures likely extends further. She has since founded Proof of Learn, an education platform, and Ohi.ai, an artificial intelligence company focused on household management. Her accolades include Fortune magazine's Most Powerful Women Entrepreneurs list in 2009, Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year in 2010, and the World Economic Forum's Young Global Leader designation in 2011. In 2014, President Benigno Aquino, the third of the Philippines, honored her with the Pamana ng Pilipino Award, recognizing her extraordinary achievements. Sheila Lirio Marcelo represents the best of Filipino-American entrepreneurship in the technology sector. Deep connections to Silicon Valley venture capital, a Harvard pedigree, and the courage to build something that didn't exist because the world needed it. But if you want to talk about Filipino-American tech success with roots planted directly in Bay Area soil, you cannot ignore the billionaire who was literally born in Berkeley, raised in its Catholic schools, and graduated from Stanford before co-creating one of the most influential applications in human history. Breaking into our top 5 is a name that most people have never heard, yet his creation lives in the pockets of over 700 million people worldwide. Bobby Murphy, the quiet genius behind Snapchat, holds a fortune of approximately $2 billion, according to Forbes 2025. But what makes his story essential to this documentary isn't just his wealth, it's where he comes from. Bobby Murphy was born on July 19, 1988, in Berkeley, California, the heart of the San Francisco Bay Area. His roots in this region run deeper than any other billionaire on our list. Bobby's mother, Rosie L. Go Murphy, emigrated from the Philippines to the United States, where she met her husband, Richard Cornelius Murphy Jr., an Irish American. Both parents worked as California state government employees, providing their son with a stable middle-class upbringing in Berkeley. On his mother's side, Bobby carries Filipino and Chinese heritage. On his father's side, he has Scottish, Irish, and English ancestry. This blend of cultures shaped a young man who would bridge worlds in ways his parents could never have imagined. His education was thoroughly Bay Area. Bobby attended the School of the Madeleine, a private Catholic elementary school in Berkeley, before moving on to St. Mary's College High School, also in Berkeley. Every formative year of his life unfolded within miles of San Francisco. When it came time for college, he stayed close to home, enrolling at Stanford University, where he earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Mathematical and Computational Science in 2010. At Stanford, Bobby joined the Kappa Sigma fraternity, where he met Evan Spiegel and Reggie Brown, the collaborators who would change his life. The three worked on a failed startup called Future Freshman, a website designed to help high school students navigate college applications. It went nowhere. But failure taught them something valuable about building products people actually wanted. In 2011, inspired by an idea about disappearing messages, Bobby and Evan created Peekaboo, a mobile application that allowed users to send photos that would vanish after being viewed. The name soon changed to Snapchat, and Bobby took on the role that would define his career. While Evan became the public face of the company, Bobby wrote the code. He built the architecture. He solved the engineering problems that made disappearing messages actually work. Years later, he would reflect on those early days with characteristic humility, telling Forbes that he and Evan weren't cool in college, so they tried to build things to be cool. What they built became a phenomenon. Bobby has served as Chief Technology Officer of Snap Inc. since May 2012. Leading the company's engineering, product, and research teams. Under his technical leadership, Snapchat introduced features that redefined social media, most notably the lenses that overlay interactive digital elements on user videos and photos. He worked with Snap Labs to develop Spectacles, the company's camera-equipped glasses that represented an ambitious bet on augmented reality hardware. The defining moment came on March 2nd, 2017, when Snap Inc. went public at $17 per share, valuing the company at $24 billion. Bobby and Evan held over 45% of the company's total stock and controlled more than 70% of voting power. At 28 years old, Bobby Murphy became a billionaire. The Filipino-American kid from Berkeley had built something worth more than the gross domestic product of many nations. Today, Bobby's net worth of approximately $2 billion stems largely from his 13% ownership stake in Snap Inc. He has invested heavily in Los Angeles real estate, accumulating a portfolio valued at over $70 million across properties in Pacific Palisades and Manhattan Beach. But his connection to his heritage remains strong. Bobby supports Gold House, an organization dedicated to celebrating and advancing Asian Pacific leaders in entertainment, media, and technology. He was recognized on their A100 list in 2018 for his contributions to innovation. In October 2024, Bobby and his wife, Kelsey Bateman Murphy, endowed a directorship for Stanford University's first-generation and low-income Student Success Center, ensuring that students from backgrounds like his parents could access the same opportunities he received. Bobby Murphy proves that Filipino-American success can be born and raised right here in the Bay Area. His story is not one of immigration, but of heritage. A second-generation American whose mother's journey from the Philippines made everything possible. But our next entry represents a different kind of wealth entirely. Not the fortune of one individual, but the collective economic power of a community fighting to preserve its place in a rapidly changing city. At number 4, we have Soma Pilipinas. San Francisco's officially recognized Filipino Cultural Heritage District. This is not a single family or entrepreneur. This is a movement, a neighborhood, and an economic ecosystem that anchors Filipino wealth and identity in the city where so much of this community's American story began. The Filipino presence in San Francisco stretches back over 120 years to the aftermath of the Philippine-American War, when the first wave of Filipino immigrants arrived seeking opportunity. By the early 20th century, a neighborhood called Manilatown had emerged along Kearny Street between Pine and Pacific, providing a home for the Manongs, the first generation of Filipino workers who labored in farms, canneries, and service industries. But urban renewal and development pressures devastated Manilatown. In 1977, the International Hotel was demolished despite fierce community resistance, displacing elderly Filipino residents and destroying the heart of the original enclave. The community regrouped in south of Market, and in 2016, after decades of organizing, the San Francisco Board of Supervisors officially recognized Soma Pilipinas as the city's Filipino Cultural Heritage District. The designation covers 1.5 square miles, stretching from Market Street to Brannan and from 2nd Street to 11th. According to the 2020 census, 30% of San Francisco's Filipino population lives within these boundaries, over 11,000 people calling this district home. Soma Pilipinas houses cultural institutions found nowhere else in America. Bindlestiff Studio is the only dedicated Filipino-American performance space in the entire nation. Archipelago Books is one of just 2 Filipino-American bookstores in the United States. The annual Pistahan Festival draws over 100,000 attendees to celebrate Filipino culture, food, and artistry. New entrepreneurs are rising. Mestiza Taqueria, Syrup Shop, and Isian Wooks represent a new generation of Filipino-owned restaurants revitalizing downtown. This is collective wealth, the kind that cannot be measured in billionaire rankings, but shapes a city nonetheless. Entering the top 3, we encounter a form of wealth that doesn't appear on any Forbes list, yet represents billions of dollars flowing through the San Francisco Bay Area economy every single year. At number 3, we honor the Filipino nursing dynasty, the tens of thousands of healthcare professionals whose collective economic power has built generational wealth for countless families across this region. The story begins with the Immigration Act of 1965, which abolished discriminatory national origins quotas and opened America's doors to skilled professionals from Asia. The Philippines, with its American-influenced nursing education system dating back to the colonial era, became a primary source of healthcare workers for understaffed American hospitals. San Francisco and the broader Bay Area emerged as major destinations. Filipino nurses arrived by the thousands throughout the 1960s and 1970s, filling critical positions in intensive care units, emergency rooms, and surgical wards. Today, approximately 20% of all registered nurses in California are Filipino. Consider the magnitude of that statistic. 1 in 5 nurses in the nation's most populous state shares this heritage. At institutions like UCSF Medical Center, Kaiser Permanente facilities throughout the Bay Area, Stanford Healthcare, San Francisco General Hospital, and the Dignity Health and Sutter Health networks. Filipino nurses form the backbone of patient care. During the COVID-19 pandemic, they staffed the front lines, risking their lives while the world sheltered at home. The economic impact is staggering. The average Bay Area nurse earns over $150,000 annually. Many Filipino nursing families are dual-income households, with both spouses working in healthcare. This stable, high-paying employment has enabled generational wealth accumulation through homeownership in communities like Daly City, South San Francisco, and Union City. Nursing became the pathway to the American dream, a family tradition passed from mothers to daughters, from fathers to sons, creating dynasties of healthcare professionals whose collective contribution to this region cannot be overstated. They may never appear in wealth rankings, but the Filipino nursing community represents the largest concentration of Filipino economic power in San Francisco, built not through entrepreneurship or invention, but through the daily labor of caring for the sick and saving lives. Our runner-up entry reveals how one man multiplied his fortune while shaping the next generation of Silicon Valley innovation. At number 2, we examine the venture capital legacy of Dado Banatao, a critical chapter that bridges his earlier entrepreneurial triumphs with his enduring impact on the Bay Area technology ecosystem. In the year 2000, after 3 successful startup exits, Banatao founded Tallwood Venture Capital in Menlo Park, California. The initial capital was $300 million. Every single dollar came from his own pocket. Tallwood focused on early-stage semiconductor technology investments, the kind of deep tech bets that most venture capitalists avoided because they required patience, technical expertise, and tolerance for long development cycles. Banatao possessed all 3. His investment philosophy emphasized global thinking from day one. He told Bloomberg News in 2011 that companies could no longer wait until they were substantially big before expanding offshore. At the outset now, as we fund the company, we think about going outside right away, he explained from his office in Palo Alto. Over 25 years as managing partner, Banatao invested in over 50 semiconductor startups. His portfolio included companies like Ocampos Communications, Inphi, and Wave Semiconductor. He served on numerous boards, mentoring founders and shaping technical strategy. The collective impact of Tallwood's investments rippled through Silicon Valley, funding innovations that power devices used by billions of people. But Banatao's Bay Area legacy extended beyond venture capital. He established Citrus and the Banatao Institute, a multi-campus University of California collaboration spanning Berkeley, Davis, Merced, and Santa Cruz. This interdisciplinary research initiative supports technology translation, turning academic discoveries into real-world applications. Through the Asian Pacific Fund in San Francisco, the Banatao Family Filipino-American Education Fund provides scholarships to California students of Filipino heritage pursuing STEM degrees. The Asian Business League of San Francisco honored him with their Distinguished Asian Leadership Award. A BCKGO television featured him in Profiles of Excellence, celebrating outstanding Bay Area Asian Pacific Americans. Tallwood Venture Capital was Dado Banatao's 4th act. But the fortune that made it possible, the inventions that changed computing forever, that is the story of our number 1 entry. And now, the moment this entire documentary has been building toward, the richest Filipino family in San Francisco, a name that belongs alongside Jobs, Gates, and Grove in the pantheon of those who built the digital age. The Banatao family. Diosdado Banatao was born on May 23, 1946, in Iguig, Cagayan, one of the poorest provinces in the Philippines. His father, Salvador, was a rice farmer. His mother, Rosita, worked as a housekeeper. The family had no electricity. Young Dado walked barefoot on dirt roads to reach Malabek Elementary School, using bamboo sticks to learn mathematics. Nothing about his circumstances suggested he would one day be called the Bill Gates of the Philippines. Yet determination carried him forward. He attended Ateneo de Tuguegarao on scholarship, where Jesuit education taught him critical thinking. He graduated cum laude from Mapua Institute of Technology with a degree in electrical engineering, then briefly trained as a pilot for Philippine Airlines before Boeing recruited him as a design engineer. It was at Boeing that he met Maria, who would become his wife. And it was while working at Boeing that he pursued his master's degree in electrical engineering and computer science at Stanford University, graduating in 1972. Stanford changed everything. Bonitao joined the legendary Homebrew Computer Club, where, according to Silicon Valley lore, he crossed paths with Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. He moved through National Semiconductor, Intersil, and Commodore International, where he designed the first single-chip 16-bit microprocessor-based calculator. Then, in 1981, while working at Seek Technology, he invented the first 10-megabit Ethernet CMOS chip, the foundation of modern computer networking. He created the first system logic chipsets for the IBM PCXT and PCAT, making personal computers affordable. He pioneered GUI accelerator chips and local bus architecture. He invented the fabless semiconductor model that crushed capital barriers and democratized the industry. His companies generated billions. Chips and Technologies earned $12 million in its first 4 months and sold to Intel for $300 million. S3 Graphics became the market leader in graphics accelerators. At his peak, Dado Bonitao's net worth reached approximately $5 billion. On December 25, 2025, he passed away at Stanford Medical Center, on the campus where his American journey began. The barefoot boy from Cagayan had become the richest Filipino in San Francisco. His story is our story, and it will never be forgotten. And there you have it, the 10 richest Filipino families and individuals connected to San Francisco, a countdown that spans fast food empires and semiconductor revolutions, nursing dynasties and tech billionaires, cultural districts, and venture capital firms. But what does this list really tell us? It tells us that the Filipino story in San Francisco is not a footnote in American history, it's a central chapter. From the Manongs who arrived in the early 1900s to the tech visionaries building the future, Filipinos haven't just lived in San Francisco, they've helped build it. Henry Sy looked at American malls and reimagined retail for the Philippines. Tony Tan Cakchung bet everything on Daly City and proved that Filipino flavors could conquer America. Bobby Murphy was born right here in Berkeley and created an app that changed how a generation communicates. And Dado Bonitao, the barefoot boy from Cagayan Valley, invented the technology that makes our entire digital world possible. These aren't just success stories. They're proof that Filipino talent, combined with American opportunity, creates something extraordinary. But perhaps the most important lesson comes from Soma Pilipinas and the collective wealth of Filipino nurses, entrepreneurs, and community builders. Because wealth isn't just about billions in a bank account. It's about the institutions you create, the people you lift up, and the legacy you leave behind. Dado Bonitao understood this better than anyone. Despite his $5 billion fortune, his greatest pride was PhilDev, the foundation sending Filipino students to world-class universities. "My story could be your story," he told them. And he meant it. Today, there's a young Filipino student somewhere in the Bay Area, walking to school just like Dado once did. Maybe they're in Daly City, maybe they're in Soma Pilipinas, maybe they're dreaming of Stanford, and maybe, just maybe, they're the next Filipino billionaire who will change the world. That's the real wealth of the Filipino community in San Francisco. Not just the fortunes already built, but the potential still waiting to be unlocked. So if you're part of this community, remember, the richest Filipino family in San Francisco isn't just Dado Banatau's family, or Bobby Murphy's family, or any single name on this list. It's all of us, and the story is still being written. If this documentary inspired you, share it with someone who needs to hear these stories. Subscribe for more content exploring wealth, legacy, and the immigrant experience. And let us know in the comments, whose story surprised you the most? Until next time,